So when I was wondering about the 40-year wandering, 40 does have meaning, but it took 40 years for that group of people to die off. And then what happened at the end of the 40 years, when all of those who had been disobedient to the will of God and to the way and the commands of God, after they had died off, then Joshua had to circumcise a whole new crew, because we can't go into the fullness of God uncircumcised. So, and then there was a law. They did the physical circumcision during that time, where every male child with the foreskin had to be cut over his private part. Come on, that he might be cut. That's all that waste, all the things that kept pollution, kept dirt and stuff to be trapped in. All that had to be cut away from him, so that he could be a pure service unto the Lord. So now we with this new regime now that is born there and come to the age after these 40 years where they could be circumcised now, so that God can complete what he started. Because we know the scripture says, he who began a good work in us, he's faithful to complete it. So although they had crossed over the Red Sea, the work that God started and the promise that God had for them had not been finished. So God was at a point now where he's ready to finish what he started. So Joshua, now he circumcised these Israelites and all that, because what happened with the Israelites, as Elder Patty said this morning, they got satisfied camping on the side of the river. Come on. But you can't camp on the side of the river for so long, because what happens, your food supply gonna run out, and the different things that you need gonna run out. But in order for you to be fulfilled and be able to walk in the fullness of God, you gotta get to the point where you're ready to cross over. So here now we're at a point where the children of Israel, at a point where they're ready to cross over. But what happened is, although God is ready to cross them over, come on, they've been in the place where they're now circumcised, and they're ready to be dedicated unto the Lord. They're in a place where they're ready now to cross over, because now they're in a position where they're ready to partake of the fruit of the promised land. But then they run into an obstacle. The next place after they cross the river is Jericho. And Jericho was a place that, it was a fortified place. It was a place that had walls surrounding it. It wasn't that the city was so big or anything when you look at to try to conquer it or to overcome it, but it had such great fortification. It had two sets of walls that were fortifying the city of Jericho. It had one wall that was, I had the depth of that wall. It was like 20 feet high and 6 feet deep, I believe it was. Let me just give you the depth of that wall. I want you to see all that they had, the children of God had to look before they could go on into the promised land. The city was, as I said, two great walls. The outer wall was 20 feet tall and 6 feet wide. That's one of the walls. Okay, now we're talking about the children of Israel. They didn't have no weapons or nothing like that that could tear down a wall. They didn't have no cannons. They didn't have no bombs. None of those things that could cause a wall to fall. All they had was just spears. Come on, and swords. Come on. Now, what is that going to do for a wall? A spear and a sword don't mean nothing for a wall. You can shoot all day long, and it says hit the wall, and it will bounce off. They needed something more powerful than a spear and a sword. And then they had another wall. The inner wall was 30 feet tall and 12 feet wide. Like 3 in the morning. So even if you got through the first wall, then you got another wall that you had to come through. And the way I'm understanding it, between these two walls was like a street that was in between them, or a breezeway or something. Between what they were heavily guarded. So even if you knocked the first wall down, you still had some more things you had to fight, because the walls were guarded. So if you knocked it down, you had some fighting you had to do, and you still haven't got to Jericho yet. You still had another wall. So just to get you to see the picture of how hard it was and the strength of man to conquer Jericho was almost totally impossible. And that's what happens in our lives today. We have certain situations in our lives that seem to be totally impossible to cause to come down. We have walls that have been erected in our lives that we got to the place where we know that Jerusalem. The inhabitants of Jericho already knew that they were going to be defeated. So what happened was, when they heard about the Israelites stand and that they were ready to go on now and to start pressing forward in God and to get to the promised land, Jericho knew that it was in the way. And they knew that nothing could stand in the way of God's plan. And that's what's happening in our lives. We have different situations in our lives that are trembling. They're fearful because they know that God has spoken to you for you to move on, for you to go deeper. Come on, for you to go deeper into Him, that you may be able to eat of the fruit of the promised land. And they've heard what God is saying, because the demons, they believe in God, they know what God's going to do, in so much that they're trembling because they're so afraid, that God's going to really continue to move and it's going to utterly destroy them. Those situations in your life, they know that you're on the path, come on, that's designed by God, and they're fearful and they're trembling. So what Jericho has done, they've heard about the Israel. So you have these different enemies and different things that have come about you who have heard about the power of your God. And then they never seen you a day in their life, but they've heard about the power of your God. So here these inhabitants of Jerusalem, they already heard about the power of the God of the Israelites. So they heard that they were getting ready to come through. So what the Bible says they did, that they got scared, come on, and they locked the walls up so that nothing could come in and nothing could go out. They were so afraid. The Bible talks about when the spies went out to spy the land, come on, and they went into Rahab's house. I'm going to talk about that probably next week, so I'm not going to get into it this week. But he sent the spies out to spy the land, come on, to see what was going on. They were so afraid. They wouldn't let nobody come in that city, that they weren't looking for anybody that come in that didn't belong there. And that's what's happening in our lives right now. The enemy is looking for any inkling of you getting ready to do something that God told you to do, come on, so that he can try to destroy the plan before it reaches full fruition. So Israel, looking, they've been in this place before. Yeah. Where it seemed to go on was impossible. I remember them being in that place at the Red Sea. Come on. When they looked before them, all they saw was the Red Sea. it's different. And I know you had those times when you just can't agree with what nobody said. I don't know if y'all ever feel it, like ain't no really wrong. Ain't nobody really doing it, but you just feel like you just want to be on the other side.